After being mistakenly taken to another city, a kitten has to learn to get by on the streets while finding a way back home. Today we're going to recap the story of the movie, Rudolph the Black Cat, from 2016. Unlike many street kittens in Japan, Rudolph was lucky enough to be adopted by a loving family, who treat him with great care. The feline has special feelings for Rai, the youngest of the family, and follows her around the house. But every time the girl goes out to do something in the street, Rudolph can't accompany her and feels lonely. Although he never goes out for a walk, the cat is happy at home, as he has a spacious yard to play in, with ponds and plants. However, one day, on her way to school, Rai forgets to lock the gate and Rudolph decides to go for a walk, ignoring the warning of the neighbor's cat, who says that the street is very dangerous. At the sight of Rai, the feline runs to try and catch up with her, but ends up causing a few accidents along the way and almost gets run over. After stealing a fish from the grocery store, Rudolph ends up being chased by the shopkeeper and decides to hide in the back of a truck to avoid being caught. As the vehicle is in motion, the kitten decides to take a nap and wakes up hours later far from home. The next morning, when the truck finally arrives in Tokyo, Rudolph takes the opportunity to escape and, once again, almost ends up being injured as he runs through the streets. When he arrives in an alley, the little one meets a huge tiger cat and gets scared, because the feline is much bigger than him. Frightened, Rudolph decides to run away and ends up in the middle of the road. The cub is about to be run over by a truck when Godalot appears to save him, and Rudolph realizes that the animal is no threat. Concerned for the cub's safety, Godalot decides to take him to a safe place and asks where the little one came from. That afternoon, Rudolph details what happened the day before and how he ended up in Tokyo. After all the trouble he's been through, all the cub wants is to go home, but he doesn't know the name of the town where he used to live, let alone how to get there. So now the little guy is officially a street kitten and Godalot decides to take him to spend the night in his hiding place. On his second night away from home, Rudolph realizes what a big mistake he has made and is saddened to think that he will never see Rai again. After a few hours thinking about his former guardian, the little one finally manages to fall asleep and, in the morning, Godalot wakes him up to take him for a walk around the city. Every morning, the tiger goes to a specific restaurant to devour the next day's leftovers and the cooks realize that he has brought a new friend. Although he doesn't like black cats, the superstitious cooks decide to feed him and, for the first time, Rudolph realizes that there are many ignorant humans in the world. As he has lived in the neighborhood for some years, Godalot has already become known throughout the neighborhood and the locals treat him with great affection. Surprised to discover that the tiger is welcomed by humans, Rudolph asks if he ever had a family, but his new friend ignores him. Apparently, Godalot was annoyed by the question and decided to walk away. At this point, the cub decides to continue his stroll through the city alone, but soon realizes that he is being followed. Suddenly, Butchie appears and introduces himself to the new resident. The animal then advises him to stop hanging around with that tiger, because all the cats in the neighborhood are scared of him. According to Butchie, Godalot is very dangerous, so Rudolph should no longer befriend him. The mongrel then takes the black cat to see one of the houses in the neighborhood and says that an extremely ferocious guard dog lives inside. Therefore, Rudolph must never go near that gate. When they hear Devil barking, the cats get scared and run away quickly. When they both reach safety, Butchie tells him that Godalot is the only feline capable of taking on a dog. Thanks to him, no dog dares walk in these parts. Later that day, Rudolph returns to his shelter and finds Godalot, so he decides to ask him about the day he confronted a dog and the tiger takes the opportunity to teach the cub a lesson. According to Godalot, street cats should avoid exposing themselves to risky situations as much as possible, as their lives are constantly under threat. When asked about his past as a pet cat, Godalot reveals that his former guardian moved to the United States and had to leave him. But before he left, his master taught him how to decode human language and, over time, Godalot was able to read even newspapers. Thanks to this learning, the tiger is able to read the menu of restaurants to choose which one to order from and can obtain various other advantages. On leaving his old home, Godalot comes across Devil and the dog doesn't miss an opportunity to tease him, making fun of the animal for having been abandoned by its owner. Even though he was hurt, the tiger decided to ignore the dog's words and return to his hideout in the company of Rudolph. On the way home, Godalot tells him that he used to be Devil's neighbor before he became a street cat and the dog started to look down on him after his guardian left him. In the morning, while walking with his kitten, Godalot is approached by Butchie and the feline asks to join his team. Despite advising Rudolph not to get close to the tiger, the truth is that Butchie has always wanted to be friends with him and Godalot accepts him into his group. That afternoon, the trio breaks into a school and the tiger leads his friends to the library. Once there, he begins to teach them to read, so that they too can have access to human knowledge. Through reading, the trio is able to travel to the savannah and meet all the animals that live there, including the lion, which is one of the biggest cats in the world. After discovering the power of books, Rudolph asks Godalot to teach him how to read all the words, and the tiger decides to make a deal with him. The feline promises to teach the kitten to read Japanese fluently, as long as Rudolph promises not to give up in the middle of the process. From that day on, every night, Godalot taught the cat to draw symbols in the sand and explained the meaning of each one. A few weeks later, the summer break arrives and the school is on lockdown. However, Godalot knows that some teachers are still at the school and starts meowing to get their attention. When Mr. Kuma opens the door, the tiger and the cub walk to the library to continue their studies. Over time, Rudolph learns to read and write and is also taught how to survive on the streets. One day, while he's with Godalot in the library, the young one looks at the TV and recognizes his old town in the images. Professor Kuma is watching the news about the famous city of Gifu, and immediately the tiger goes to check the map to see where this place is. Luckily, Gifu isn't too far from Tokyo, and all Rudolph has to do is find a means of transportation to get there. However, Godalot tries to discourage him from doing so, as he knows it will be a very dangerous journey. Frustrated that he won't be able to return home, the cat leaves and Butchie decides to go after him. While running through the streets, Rudolph comes across a truck on its way to Gifu and decides to get into it. What the cat didn't realize was that the back of the truck is refrigerated and he risks freezing before reaching his destination. When he realizes that his friend is in danger, Godalot and Butchie go after him and chase the truck at high speed. As soon as the vehicle stops to pick up new goods, Butchie distracts the driver while the tiger gets in to rescue Rudolph. When he finds him, Godalot has to break the ice to free his friend and, luckily, the cub manages to survive. As soon as Rudolph manages to recover, the tiger attacks him with a paw, furious at his recklessness. That night, while resting to make another escape attempt, Rudolph dreams of his old home and remembers Rye's lap. A few weeks later, during a rainy night, the cub finds a poster advertising a trip to the city of Gifu. So the little one decides to hitch a ride on the tour bus and finds out that the trip will take place on November 10th at 6:30 in the morning. There's only one day left until Rudolph's long-awaited trip home, and all that's left to do now is to say goodbye to his friends. When he realizes that the cub will be leaving in a few hours, Butchie feels very sad, but says that he will have a farewell party for Rudolph that night. When asked what he would like to eat for his last meal in Tokyo, he replies that he would like a juicy piece of meat, and Godalot gets up to make the preparations. As he will be leaving soon, Rudolph decides to spend as much time as possible with the tiger, but when he arrives at the shelter, he realizes that his friend is not there. Suddenly, Butchie appears and reveals that Godalot has been injured in a fight with Devil, and Rudolph rushes to help him. Upon finding the tiger unconscious, the cub becomes desperate and runs to Mr. Kuma's house to ask for help. When he hears meowing at his window, the man immediately goes out to see what's going on and comes across a plea for help written in the sand. After following Rudolph to Godalot's old house, Kuma finds the collapsed tiger and quickly takes it to the vet. While Godalot is being treated, Butchie tells him what really happened and reveals that he saw the tiger go to Devil's house to ask for a piece of meat for Rudolph's farewell party. When he discovers the truth, the cub starts to cry because he feels guilty that his friend has been hurt. After Godalot receives all the necessary medical attention, Mr. Kuma decides to take him to his home and invites Rudolph to stay with him. Then, in the middle of the night, when the tiger wakes up, the cub is relieved to know that he is all right, and Godalot apologizes for what happened, as he had intended to accompany Rudolph to Gifu. During the farewell, the black cat thanks his friend for taking care of him all this time, because when he arrived in Tokyo, Rudolph had no one else. It's dawn and Butchie shows up to say that the tour bus has arrived at the pickup point. However, before leaving, Rudolph decides to go after Devil and wants to teach the dog a lesson for hurting his friend. Furious, the little guy breaks into Devil's house and challenges him to a duel, confident that he can beat his opponent. Immediately, the bulldog accepts the challenge and ferociously begins to chase the cub. Since he can't compete on brute strength, Rudolph has no choice but to try to escape and climbs on a seesaw to try to get rid of his enemy. At that moment, Devil sees the perfect opportunity to attack him and throws the little guy into the air. Shortly afterwards, when Rudolph is falling back, the dog tries to bite him, but the cub manages to dodge the attack and Devil ends up on the other side of the yard. Furious at not being able to get rid of the cub, the bulldog directs his anger at Rudolph once and for all. However, with Butchie's help, the cub manages to set up an ambush and knocks Devil into the lake. When he falls into the water, the dog despairs because he can't swim. Rudolph tells him that he will help him out of there, as long as he promises never to attack a cat again. When Devil takes the oath, The cub throws him a broom to hold on to and the bulldog manages to save himself from drowning. A few hours later, when he wakes up, Godalot comes across Rudolph and is surprised to see him, so the young one reveals that he was late for the pickup and missed the bus. Over the next few weeks, the two friends continued to live together and, over time, the tiger managed to heal completely. When this happens, the pair leave Mr. Kuma's house and return to the shelter, where they spend the entire winter. Months later, when spring arrives, Butchie shows up with his new girlfriend and introduces Misha to his friends. But then Rudolph realizes that Godalot has been away from home all day and decides to go out and look for him. While walking around the neighborhood, the cub spots Devil and asks if he has seen the tiger walking around the neighborhood. The dog then reveals that he hasn't seen him for a few days and tells him that he used to be good friends with Godalot when they were neighbors. However, when the feline started living on the streets, Devil said very cruel things to him and made fun of the fact that Godalot had been abandoned by his guardian. But now the dog realizes what a big mistake he has made and plans to apologize to his tiger friend. Then, when Godalot returns to the shelter, Rudolph is waiting for him with 2 pieces of meat and reveals that this is a gift sent by Devil as an apology. After eating, the tiger asks Rudolph to accompany him and takes the cub to a car that is on its way to Gifu. To ensure that Rudolph can find his home, Godalot says he will accompany him on the journey. But the little one doesn't want him to do that, because then he won't know if the tiger has made it back to Tokyo safely. So Godalot decides to prepare Rudolph to make this journey alone and teaches him everything he needs to know to catch the transport that will take him to the right place. The night before he leaves, the cub meets up with his friends for a farewell and Devil provides a delicious dinner. During the conversation, Godalot tells him that he is going to the United States to try and find his guardian. Ever since his master left, the tiger had hoped that he would return home one day, but now he knows that won't happen. The truth is that Godalot wasn't abandoned. He should have been taken to the United States, but he managed to escape from the cargo ship and returned home to await his guardian. But now he's tired of waiting and has decided to go after his master. When he finds out that his old friend is also leaving, Devil starts crying and hugs Butchie, as the cat has now been named his new best friend. In the morning, Godalot and Butchie accompany Rudolph until the cat gets into the truck and sets off for his hometown. At dusk, the cub finally reaches the halfway point and follows the route his tiger friend has taught him. After hitching a ride with a truck driver, Rudolph travels for a few more hours until he reaches the penultimate town on his list. When he finds the vehicle that is on its way to Gifu, he prepares for the last leg of his journey. However, just as he's about to reach the city, the truck's tire bursts and he has to complete the journey on his own. Being very tired and hungry, Rudolph begins to lose consciousness and ends up in the middle of the street. After almost being run over, he manages to pull himself together and continues his walk until he spots the cable car near his old house. At this point, the little one is relieved to know that he is on the right track and runs quickly through the neighborhood until he reaches his final destination. While climbing the wall of the house, Rudolph meets the neighbor's cat again and she tells him that she has to tell him something. However, the little one is so anxious to meet Rai again that he ignores her and enters the house. When he spots the girl, Rudolph walks towards her and suddenly comes across another black cat. The kitten immediately introduces himself and reveals that his name is Rudolph. According to him, Rai adopted him because her previous cat disappeared a year ago, so the girl decided to adopt him to make up for missing her old friend. The kitten says that Rai also wanted to adopt one of his brothers, but the girl's mother said she could only have one cat, so he was chosen. Rudolph finally gets the hug he's been waiting for, but decides to leave before Rai wakes up, as he doesn't want her to have to choose between him and the new baby. After seeing his human for the last time, Rudolph leaves and hitches a ride back to Tokyo. When he arrives in the city, he walks to the shelter where Godalot used to live and realizes that he is no longer there, so he comes to the conclusion that the tiger has left for the United States. Then Butchie and Misha show up and are happy to see their friend again. To Rudolph's surprise, Godalot arrives soon after and the cub runs to hug him, as he is thrilled to have the chance to see him again. At that moment, the little one collapses, but is taken in by his best friend. The tiger tells them that he was on his way to the United States when something unexpected happened. To his surprise, his former guardian returned home and was very happy to see his old friend again. When he meets the little black cat, the man is enchanted by him and decides to adopt him too. Despite losing Rai, Rudolph has gained a new family and now both he and Godalot will have the chance to live in a home full of love and affection. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.